Let me start with a simple but uncomfortable question. Why do so many people earning what used to be considered a good salary still feel financially stuck? Not struggling to survive, not living paycheck to paycheck in the traditional sense, but constantly feeling behind. Behind on savings, behind on freedom, behind on the life they thought this income would unlock. This isn't about poor decisions or lack of effort. Most of these people did exactly what society told them to do. They studied, they got a degree or a skill, they found a stable job, they earned more than their parents did at the same age. And yet, real wealth still feels out of reach. So the question isn't, why aren't people earning enough? The real question is, why isn't a good salary enough anymore? Let's walk through a very normal situation. Imagine someone in their late 20s or early 30s. They live in the US, the UK, Germany, France, or another developed European country. They earn around $70,000 a year in the US, 55,000 euros in Europe. On paper, that's a solid income. Now let's slow down and look at where it actually goes. After taxes, healthcare contributions, and social charges, that salary becomes roughly $50,000 take-home in the US, 38,000 to 40,000 euros in Europe. Already a large part of the income disappears before any choices are made. Now comes housing. Rent for a modest one-bedroom apartment in a decent area, $1,600 to $2,000 per month in many U.S. cities, $1,200 to €1,500 in major European cities. That's $19,000 to $24,000 a year just to exist somewhere. Half the income is gone. Then transportation, a car payment or lease, insurance, fuel, maintenance, or in Europe, public transit passes plus occasional car costs. Conservatively, $500 to $700 per month, another $6,000 to $8,000 a year. Now we're at $30,000 plus in fixed costs, before food, phones, utilities, or life. Then there's food, not luxury dining, just groceries, occasional eating out, convenience. $400 to $600 per month. Add utilities, phone, internet, streaming subscriptions, basic clothing, gym membership. None of this feels extravagant, yet suddenly the good salary is reduced to a thin margin. And then there's debt, student loans, credit cards, buy now, pay later plans, furniture on installments. Not because people are reckless, but because this is how modern life is structured. What's left at the end of the month? Usually, a little savings, a little investing, a lot of quiet anxiety. Not failure, but no momentum either.
The hidden financial mistake no one talks about.
Here's where most explanations go wrong. People assume the problem is not earning enough or not budgeting well. But those explanations don't fully explain what's happening. The deeper issue is this: modern salaries are designed to support a lifestyle, not to build wealth. Your income is optimized for consumption, not accumulation. Housing markets assume dual incomes. Car markets assume financing. Education assumes debt. Social life assumes spending. The system isn't broken, it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. A good salary today buys you comfort, stability, social participation, but it does not automatically create wealth. And this is the mistake many people make. They confuse income adequacy with wealth progress. Those are not the same thing anymore. Let's use very simple math. Suppose someone, after all expenses,
manages to save $500 per month. That feels responsible. That feels disciplined. That's $6,000 a year. Invested consistently, maybe it grows to $300,000 to $400,000 after 30 years. That's not failure, but it's also not financial freedom, especially adjusted for inflation, healthcare costs, and housing. Now compare that to someone earning slightly less, but with lower fixed costs. Same job level, same intelligence, same effort, but smaller apartment, paid-off car, less lifestyle inflation. They save $1,500 per month. That's $18,000 a year. Over time, that difference compounds into millions, not thousands. Same income range, completely different outcomes. The salary wasn't the deciding factor. The structure of spending was. Why lifestyle inflation feels so reasonable. Here's the psychological part. Lifestyle inflation doesn't feel like excess. It feels like, I deserve this now. This is normal for my income. Everyone around me lives like this. The danger isn't luxury. The danger is normalization. When rent, cars, travel, subscriptions, and convenience quietly scale up with income, savings never get a chance to scale faster. Every raise gets absorbed by slightly better housing, slightly better car, slightly more comfort. Not because people are greedy, but because humans adapt quickly. What once felt like a treat becomes the baseline. And once something becomes the baseline, giving it up feels like loss, not optimization. Status pressure without anyone saying a word. Here's another uncomfortable truth. No one explicitly tells you to spend more. It happens silently. Colleagues talk about neighborhoods. Friends upgrade cars. Social media sets visual expectations. You don't feel pressured. You feel out of sync if you don't keep up. And this creates a quiet trade-off. You exchange future flexibility for present belonging. Again, not a moral failure, just human behavior. Why this problem is worse than before. This isn't how it worked for previous generations. Decades ago, housing was cheaper relative to income. Education didn't require decades of debt. Cars were simpler and owned longer. Healthcare costs were lower. A good salary had excess capacity. Today, it doesn't. Most middle-class salaries are tightly optimized for monthly survival with comfort, not long-term wealth accumulation, which means wealth now requires conscious resistance, not just good earnings. What happens if nothing changes? If this pattern continues unchanged, something predictable happens. People reach their 40s and 50s with high incomes, low flexibility, high obligations. They're not poor, but they're trapped. Career risks feel dangerous. Job dissatisfaction feels permanent. Early retirement feels unrealistic, not because they failed, but because the system quietly consumed their surplus. How financially intelligent people think differently. Here's the shift. People who build wealth don't obsess over money. They obsess over optionality. They ask, does this expense reduce my future choices? Is this fixed cost hard to reverse? Am I buying comfort or flexibility? They don't avoid enjoyment. They avoid irreversible commitments. They keep fixed expenses boring. They let variable expenses be flexible. Not because they lack ambition, but because they value freedom more than appearance. This isn't about sacrifice. It's about delaying normalization, about not immediately upgrading everything just because income allows. Because once a lifestyle is locked in, wealth building becomes secondary, and reversing lifestyle inflation is emotionally harder than never inflating it in the first place. Closing perspective. A good salary isn't useless, it's powerful, but only if it creates distance between what you earn and what you need. Wealth is built by not how much you make, it's built by how much control you maintain over your future time. That's the part modern life doesn't teach. And once you see it clearly, you don't feel guilty, you feel calmer, more intentional, more aware. If this perspective helped you see money a little more clearly, consider subscribing to the channel, not for motivation, just for better thinking.